Very much like a lot of our Conference League matches, when Badiashile and Dewsbury-Hall are having good games, you know the opposition's probably not up to scratch. What's up, guys, and welcome to the Blues and Stripes. Let's go ahead and just jump right into this because I'm tired, and frankly, there's not a whole lot to talk about in this match because it's very much like those early FA Cup matches or like a lot of the Conference League matches this year, where there's not really a whole lot to review in this. There's not a whole lot that we learned or we could figure out from watching this because the opposition is just not good enough. No disrespect intended, but it's just the truth of it. This team was not good. Honestly, I'm looking at LAFC and asking, how the hell? And I think, honestly, looking at the keeper for all three of the goals, the first one, not so much his fault, but the second and third ones for sure. I mean, my God, we should have been putting him on target and away from him. But unfortunately, a lot of our shots were off target or right at him. And outside of George's, all the ones that are right at him are not that difficult to save. So really, we were just always in control of this match, even with a terrible lineup. But I will say, there is a part of me that is frustrated with the fact that Maresca put out this crap lineup, and then he gets rewarded with a win. Like, I never want to be that fan that says, I hope we lose today, to make a statement, you know, your Rory Jennings and all of that. But there is something a little frustrating about this one, because the lineup was god-awful. And I almost feel like him winning this match justifies it in a way. Maybe it'll make him feel like he's been proven correct in how he set up this team. And I don't want him to feel like that, because if we play this lineup against any team worth their salt, we're going to get thumped. And granted, I don't think he's playing a lot of these players against the better teams. He's not going to play the likes of Jorgensen or Badiashile, Dewsbury-Hall. He's not going to play these guys against your Bayerns, your Reals, your PSGs if we get that far in the tournament. But at the same time, I am concerned with how he set up this team, because there's a lot of it that really doesn't make sense and is kind of frustrating. And just looking at it, first of all, you've got Madueke on the left side, Dewsbury-Hall on the right. So not only are you playing Madueke out of position, you're playing him out of position whenever you're playing somebody else out of position on the right. If you're going to have two players playing on the wings, one of them's not even a wing, why not play the one player who is a wing on the side that he's more comfortable on? Just a thought. He's playing Nkuku at the 10, and I realize we don't have a whole lot of options at 10, but why is that? Whose fault is that? Is that Maresca? Is that the board? Whose fault is it that we don't have any other options outside of Palmer and Nkuku that can play at 10? Because whoever's fault it is needs to get the sack, because it's stupid. You've got Lavia and Fernandez as your two holding mids. Both of them are more attack-minded, so you have no defensive balance. Now, granted, we didn't need it today, but still, you don't have any defensive balance there. So what is this partnership going to accomplish in other matches? Nothing. So why even play it in a match like today? Especially because everybody's been clamoring to see Santos, and yeah, he comes off the bench finally, but why are we not starting him? Why are we not seeing Asugo, who is a lot more defensive-minded? Why are we seeing all these players that we've already seen? And then you get into the back line, and granted, I think some of this was probably already planned. He probably already planned to play Badiashile and Achimpong here. He probably already planned to play Jorgensen in goal. Gusto as inverting left back. And first of all, just the fact that he's playing after the match against Flamengo blows my mind. And granted, we don't have any other left backs outside of Cucurella, so that's a problem with the board. I don't know why we don't have Vega back from his loan already. I don't know why we're not giving him a shot. I don't know why Maresca won't do that, but whatever. So we don't have another option for left back, but why Gusto? If you're going to play anybody, why Gusto? I can't remember one good solid match he had this season, and then the Flamengo match was a joke. It was an embarrassment. He lost us that match from two terrible defensive moments. And then you're going to play him again. You're going to start him again here. He doesn't make any mistakes, so I'm sure Maresca will go, oh, see, he can be a player. This is against a side that's not anywhere near the level that we're going to be facing. We're probably going to face League 2 teams that are better than this. So Gusto is not useful for us. Why are you still playing him? So all that to say, I'm really frustrated with Maresca on this one. Again, I don't want to be that fan that goes, oh, I hope we lose today to prove Maresca wrong, but I will say it's frustrating that he makes all these stupid decisions in this match. I really hope he doesn't take the wrong lessons from this. I really hope he doesn't look at this and go, oh, see, Gusto proved he can play. Oh, see, Dewsbury-Hall proved he's still useful to us. Oh, Badiashile proved he can defend. This is not the game to show that these players are quality enough. We're not going to have it this easy at all this season, unless we face some non-league side in the FA Cup, and even then I feel like we get a little bit more quality than this. That might be a little harsh. But before we move on and talk about individuals, I did want to talk about one thing that today was funny was less funny in the Flamengo match, the referees. I really do feel, and I know this is conspiracy theory, so people are going to call me crazy for thinking this, but just from what I've seen from some of the highlights, because I have been trying to at least watch the highlights of the more interesting matches, feels like there is a bit of an agenda against the European sides from the referees in this tournament, because there have been a lot of awful calls. I mean, the referees in this tournament in general are awful, but some of the worst decisions that I've seen have gone against European sides. And I think the Flamengo match was a great example where the referee was so one-sided against us. It was ridiculous. Even though this ref wasn't quite as bad as that one against Flamengo, it still was pretty bad. I mean, you've got a challenge coming in, not quite as bad as Jackson's, but still studs up to the back of the calf pretty early on in the match. No card. Just a simple foul. How? How is that not at least a yellow? It's borderline red. Like, if it was a little bit higher, I feel like there'd be a case for red, but he still comes in, studs up to the back of the calf. That's a card. There's several fouls just throughout the match where little bumps, little nudges, they fall over, they get the foul. In 50-50s, two players are wrestling with each other, they get the foul. You've got two penalties that we should have had. First of all, the Nkuku one, where he slips it through the guy's leg, and the guy just blocks him off. That's a foul. So nothing there, and then the handball. What a joke. It's kind of funny because I had muted the game at this point because the announcers are just awful. Anytime you have an American announcer in general, it's going to be bad, but especially these games, even the British announcers that they've had on here, they just aren't quite as good. So I tend to just mute the matches and watch them silent. But whenever the shot comes in, they don't cut to the referee. They don't show him pointing. I'm assuming it's a corner. You know, they show the replay and it shows it hits his hand. And what's funny is I'm sitting there making a joke after they showed that one angle that showed it hit his hand. I go, oh, that's a penalty. But we're not going to get it because the referee hates us. And so that when they cut back to the live and they're showing the defender that hit his hand, I'm like, yeah, look at him. He's so nervous. He knows it was a handball. He knows that it's going to be a penalty. And then they cut to the referee telling the keeper to get on his line. Cut to Nkuku at the spot. I'm like, oh, he gave it. Well, the camera crew really didn't do a good job of showing that. And then all of a sudden we're just sitting there. And they're VAR checking the penalty. And I'm thinking, what are you looking for? Offside? Pretty sure whoever was close to him was not offside. Are they checking for maybe a red card? Maybe they think it's a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity. And then the ref walks over. He looks at it a few times. Definitely hits his hand. His hand is out from his body. Not like all the way out here. It's making him bigger. And the referee does a little symbol. No penalty. And I just started laughing because what a joke. What a joke that is. And what's even funnier is he blew the whistle before the ball went out of bounds, so we don't even get a corner for it. What a joke of a referee to look at that. First of all, for VAR to look at it and go, hey, you need to look at this again. This is a clear and obvious mistake. I know it hit his hand. I know his hand's away from his body, but this is a clear and obvious mistake that this was not a handball. The fact that VAR did that, he's a joke. The fact that the referee went over, looked at it, and said, yeah, I was wrong, that's a joke. And like I said, the cherry on the cake, the fact that he blew his whistle before it went out of bounds so we don't even get the corner. What a comedy show. These referees all just need to quit and become comedians and continue to act like referees because that is the joke. People will be dying laughing watching them try to act like referees because they aren't. They're just dumbasses. And this is a great example of it. And if we weren't 2-0 up at the time, I would have thrown something because there's no way you can look at that and go, that's not a handball. It's so ridiculous. Also, a little side note, but the red card for Real Madrid, what an awful decision that was, too. That's part of my conspiracy as far as the European sides getting a lot of the awful calls from the referee. That was a great example. Not a foul. And yet he gives it, and because it's the last defender, he has to then give a red. Terrible decision. But anyways, moving on to individuals, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to discuss here. Basically, you have your players that were decent, they did their jobs against a terrible side, and then you had your players that didn't show anything, which is concerning considering this is a terrible side. So Jorgensen didn't have much to do, so can't really judge him. Tosin and Badiashile both did fine in defense. Not great on the ball, wasn't great, but it was fine enough to get the job done, and they weren't really tested today, to be honest. Achimpong probably looked the best out of our back four. Very progressive on the ball. I like what I see from him, and I want to see more. I feel like right now, James should be our starting right back. Achimpong is our backup because Gusto's not good enough. Gusto, like I said, he didn't do anything terrible today, but it's not like he had a phenomenal game that made me go, oh, maybe I was wrong about him. It was just a decent game against a bad side. Lavia looked okay. Decent passes through the middle. Very good defense splitting passes as well. And I think defensively of the two, he was slightly better than Fernandez. But I mean, Enzo did fine in there as well. Made some good passes, kept the ball moving pretty well. Set up Delap really well for the second goal. Dewsbury-Hall, like I said, he had a good game, but he typically does against these sides that are weaker, like we saw in the Conference League this season. And Cuckoo had a couple of moments that were little flashes that were okay, but on the whole of it, still didn't look quite up for it. And then Madueke on the left side, I can't blame him for the fact that he's not playing on his more comfortable side. That's on Maresca. But still, this is the type of game where Madueke should be stepping up and doing something, and he still didn't. He still didn't do hardly anything. He had one good chance that was just wide of the post. Outside of that, I didn't see anything from him. Delap up top was okay. Had some good moments throughout. The goal, obviously the build-up play was the better part of it. His nice little cutback to put it on his stronger foot. The finish wasn't great, but the keeper is not great either. But overall, I'm liking Delap's play. I think it's very energetic. Again, he seems similar to Jackson in some ways, but his runs are a bit different than Jackson's are. So I do think he provides something different up top, which is going to be good for us this season. As far as the subs that came on, Asugo and Guiu were the first two to come on. Guiu, I thought, could have done better, had some decent chances that he didn't do much with. He's still a very hard worker, and he still is young. I still think a loan move would be really good for him if he could go be the starting striker for a side for a season. There's a lot about his game that is still just raw and needs to be refined. Asugo was okay, had some good moments defensively in there. I will say it is kind of funny because I remember when I was looking up his stats, it did say his defensive stats were really good, but his passing stats were not great. And then within the first few minutes of coming on the pitch, he has a 10-yard pass to Achimpong. He misses him from 10 yards. I'm thinking, well, maybe the stats do tell more of the story than I give him credit for. But I think as he grew into the game, started to look a little bit more comfortable in there on the ball. Next two subs were George and Santos. Good to see Santos get some minutes. I would like to see more of him because it was difficult to really get a read off him today. A couple of times he gave away the ball a little too simply and should have been a bit stronger in there. But he had also a couple of moments that looked pretty good. So I think he needs to get some more minutes so we can see, is he ready? Because obviously a lot of Chelsea fans want to see him step into the first team. But I think it's really going to be hard to tell how he's going to fit into this system and whether or not he's actually going to be Premier League quality until we actually get to see more of him. Thought George did okay. I think we could have seen a little bit more from him. You know, his goal was well struck, but the keeper pulled an Onana, so can't really say it was a great goal. But I think he's shown a lot more quality than he has in the past couple games when he's come off the bench. So I would like to see that confidence come back into him and hopefully get a bit more of a chance to break into this first team. And then the final one was Sarr, and I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of time when he came on, and granted, we were not under a whole lot of pressure defensively either, so it's not like he had a lot to do. But we are through to the knockout round, so that's good, I guess. But I'm just not really excited going forward. I feel like Maresca showed in this match he's still an idiot. He still doesn't know what he's doing. He's still playing players that should not be playing, and it does have me concerned that things are not going to change. He's very stubborn. He wants to continue sticking with the players that he saw throughout most of the season. And I think there's a lot of possibilities coming out of these younger players and these new signings that he's not really giving a chance for us to see or for him to see. And frankly, I think this group stage could have been the time to give some of these players a chance, because from here on out, it's not going to be easy. We are going to be facing a lot tougher opposition, and you're not really going to get a chance to test these players and to give them opportunities because you're going to want to stick with your best 11. And I don't think he let himself see what those possibilities were based on this group stage. So I think he really failed there, and I'm definitely not confident going into the knockout rounds. But you know what? If we do get knocked out pretty early on, I guess that means more rest for these players so they can be more ready for the Premier League. So I guess that's the one positive thing we can take out of this if we don't go that far in the knockout rounds. But with all that being said, those are my thoughts on the game tonight. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game and Maresca and his decisions? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea previews, reviews, and talks. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. And I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.